magic and medicine. I like to consider the work that I do here in the clinic, here in the apothecary, and the work that I do in the green art to be a conscious or intentional reweaving of the ideas of what is medicine and what is magic. We've gotten ourselves into this really interesting situation with pop herbalism, what we call TikTok herbalism, and also herb craft, herbal magic, herbal sorcery, plant spirit work of the same nature, where over time they're getting further and further separated. The magical ritual aspect of plant work is getting put in one box that's sort of, relegated to people who are calling themselves witches and shamans and all of that stuff. Plant medicine, herbalism, is getting relegated to a different box for people who have fallen into this allopathic trap of just memorizing what herbs are good for, memorizing the list of what an herb can be used for, and kind of calling it good. The reality is that this is a new thing, and it's, for lack of a better word, quite toxic when it comes to how the future of our work with the plant spirits will go and what we're capable of doing as individuals in this work. So what I want to present here in this brief class are two ideas. The first, that magic and medicine are the same thing. And the second, that from the perspective of the student, the seeker, which all of us should be, that whichever of the two we have the greatest access to will initiate us into the fullness of both. So we'll tackle both of these in a bit of detail. So magic and medicine, the same thing. And when we take out that sort of false partition that separates what's herb magic and what's herb medicine, we realize the unification of the two things. We realize that they are actually doing the same thing. And part of that realization comes from the fact that when we're doing spiritual herbalism, when we're doing an herbalism that honors the personhood, the wisdom, the intelligence, the sovereignty, and the virtues of the plants versus what they're good for or what they can be used for in service of the exceptional human being, that medicine tends to spill over into every single part of the life narrative. And people see it, and sometimes they put it together, but a lot of times they don't. So, folks treating a physical issue with herbal medicine and not seeing that the medicine is also touching on the energetic, emotional, mental aspect of that physical issue at the same time. And oftentimes that's what's getting healed first. So, people working with plant medicine for digestive complaints, right? Digestive stuff, gut health, and not sort of putting together that while they're working, they're bringing in wisdom medicine for the part of their body that separates what is nourishing from waste, right? What we should absorb into the bloodstream and use to build ourselves, and what should be passed and released as weight. They don't see or put together the fact that while they're on that medicine journey, while they're taking the tincture and drinking the tea, popping the capsules, that suddenly they're identifying places in their relationships and in their connections where the nourishment to waste ratio is not healthy, and that they're able to sort of let people go or let situations go that are more waste than nourishment. Or they are able to go back to moments of trauma, moments of challenge, and find the truth in it for them. Not necessarily the lesson, because I don't buy into the idea that every horrible thing that happens to somebody is on purpose and has a lesson for them. I think sometimes bad things happen. But there's a truth, and usually the truth is about the person seeing, their involvement in it, that it wasn't their fault and that they don't need to blame themselves and it's not about them, right? Sometimes that's the nourishment in it. And then kind of letting go of everything else, giving everything else that nice aromatic laxative effect. Push it out, release it. So people don't put it together, sometimes they do, that the plant medicine is not somehow limited to the physical body, limited to tissue states. It's not how it works. And if it did work that way, it would just be pharmaceuticals. It would just be allopathic medicine that we use to suppress symptoms and create comfort, regardless of the root cause or the fullness of the person, the being. So when that happens, we start to get this inkling like, wait a minute, if I can work with plant medicine to restore health in my gut and also see it in the way that I'm processing, holding on and releasing to things in my life, couldn't I just work with plant medicine for the life narrative part of it? Work with plant medicine to change my relationship with money, change my relationship with how I see myself, with the kinds of people I'm attracting into my life, with how I'm protected, with how I'm guided. Absolutely. This is why we say magic and the medicine of the plants. It's the same thing. We've created that false divide. We've put that thin piece of plexiglass between the two. It's not real. In fact, what it does is prevents us from really understanding the fullness of what plant medicine actually is, and where the medicine can take us when we're open to the fact that the medicine, while coming in through the mouth, spills over into every part of the life. So when we are doing rituals with the plants, there can be a physical repercussion. When we're doing physical medicine with the plants, there can be a spiritual repercussion. And the real power comes when we just open up to all of it. The plants will generally travel the path of least resistance, the path of consent. And so if we come into the medicine like, hey, go where you need to go, whether that's into my workplace, into my relationship, into my mind, my belief system, into my cardiovascular system, wherever you need to go, you go, you go. I allow you in. By taking this medicine, I'm opening myself, I'm letting you into the deepest part of who I am, right? Then we see that happen. Then we see the magic happen. So we say, follow the medicine, right? Peel the onion, go down the path, see where the plants take you, and watch the magic and the medicine become the same thing. So that's one aspect of this conversation. The other is that most of us don't really know how to explore the medicinal virtues of the plant spirits or the magical virtues of the plant spirits without stepping into this really toxic, really reductionist way of approaching them. Again, this plant is good for the digestion. This plant can be used for a love spell. These terminologies, when you see people use them, you understand they're not practicing animism. They're not in a relationship of personhood with the plants. Otherwise, they wouldn't talk about the plants with that language. We want to avoid it. And at the same time, we want to lean into the lore. We want to lean into what's been handed down, right? We want to have somewhere to start. We want to find a little path to start walking down as our own relationships start happening. We got to start somewhere. Thus enters the materia medica, the monographs of old, whether it's Shen Nung Pensao or Atharva Veda or some monograph written by an herbalist you're studying with. When we know something about the truth of a plant, something about them, we can use that something, use that knowledge of something to go all the way in. It's an initiation. It's a gateway, a portal. So coming back to our example of the digestive system, if you know that a particular herb, let's say, has a laxative effect, right? Has an effect of stimulating the peristaltic action of the intestines, maybe regulating the moisture content of the bowels and the way that the nervous system is responding to material there, and really just getting things moving and expelled from the body, right? Getting out what we don't want, the waste. You can sit with that idea and contemplate, where else in my life or where else in someone's life would that medicine be meaningful outside of the physical structure, right? So we can think in terms of, so if this herb can help people move and pass waste from the body, this plant spirit also likely can help them do that from a relationship, from a toxic work situation, from their life. Figure out what's not serving you, what doesn't work, and pass it and flush it, right? Laxatives are great in moderation. So by knowing something about the medicinal virtues of a plant spirit, it's an opening to start exploring how that medicine might look when we let it be more than just a physical thing. How a nervine or a nootropic or an adaptogen or a nutritive or an alternative looks when applied not just to the physical body, which we exceptionalize and fetishize to some degree, but to the life, capital L, right? What does nervine herbal action look like when applied to your life journey versus just the way your mind responds to stress? So the flip side, of course, being that we can look at a lot of the lore and how some plants were worked with for magic, for charm, for spellcast, and get some insight into how we might start learning or studying or communicating with that plant spirit about how those things could be applied to the internal universe, right? Again, always practicing a really good format of safe, sane, and consensual, because there is a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of reductionist herbal information being reduced small enough to fit on an Instagram post. This is not good herbalism. It's also not good plant spirit work. It's reductionist, and it divorces the plant spirit from their inherent personhood. None of us want to be relegated to a list of things we're good for, right? You don't want it. I don't want it. No one wants it. We want to be fully sovereign beings. I actually think this is why so many folks hate doing resumes, because it forces us to take this allopathic, reductionist approach to like presenting ourselves to somebody. We'd almost rather just be put in the hot seat and interviewed and like respond as a human being. But instead we have to have this, one sheet of paper where we bullet point all the things we're good for, all the things, that are evaluated about us. And it doesn't feel good. It brings up a lot of inherent anxiety in people. It stresses people out. And it's not a good way to be in relationship. When we talk about animal spirits, plant spirits, other kinds of beings, deities, we do this to deities too. This deity is the goddess of this. This is what she's good at. No one wants that, right? We want to be full people where our medicine, our magic, because we all carry a virtue. We all carry medicine and magic that's ours, just like chamomile has theirs, peppermint has theirs. We want all of that to spill out and become expansive. And the only way to do that is by approaching otherness as person and entering into right relationship, being conscious and intentional about creating space for non-human to be fully person. And from there, everything kind of just unfolds in its own way. Sometimes it takes some time to deconstruct these belief systems from the brain and get the brain to be squishy again. But it happens. And for most folks, myself included, the process in and of itself is quite fun. It's very enlightening. It's a challenge. It helps prevent spiritual burnout. We don't feel like we're spinning our wheels because there's always new relationships, new networking to explore and to learn from and to share with. So see if you can take these ideas into your medicine work today. You take a tincture, you take an herbal capsule, an herbal tea. See if you can sit with that medicine in a way today that removes that assumption that the medicine stays inside of your skin. Invite it by bringing it literally inside of yourself. Invite it to be medicine for the fullness of your life path. See how that feels. See how the medicine that you're working with right now and how it addresses a physical disharmony, what that disharmony might look like if you tried to find it in places outside of yourself, what a cardiovascular issue would look like in the job situation or the relationship situation or the spiritual development situation. And this is the beginning of writing your own materia medica, your own monographs, your own realizations and revelations from the green realm, from the plant spirits, about who they be and how they get to work when invited into a space that is open to their full personhood and their full range of virtues.